Well, hi again. Let me arrange this a little bit. Well, uh, in this part of the video, we will start looking to the one of the two major agents of a typical goods market. By the way, as a last thing, let me tell you also this: when we are on the goods market in general, when we are talking on a goods market, we can take the definition of goods as general as we want. We might, for example, tell the market for example, I don't know, a specific type of good, for example, iPhones, like uh, this one, for example. Uh, Alternatively, you might have a market for phones or a market for electronics, or even market for, I don't know, communication devices. Uh, so you can keep your definitions broad. You can keep your definitions more narrow, and since we are more theoretical in this case, we don't need to specify a special unit. We can just say 3 units of communication devices or 3 units of phones, for example, or something like that. And if we give price, then we can give the average price of a phone in the market, which could be calculated if it's needed to be calculated. If we go to the real world, of course, in that case, there could be more creative um, uh, way to calculate the average quantity. I mean, how can we specify the unit of, for example, food production, or price of a unit of food, for example, produced in a typical country. But at theoretical level, we don't need to do this. So the market can be as broad as we want or as narrow as you want. That's something you might remember. And um, well, uh, the one of the two major actors in the market was the buyers who create the demand. Um, well, we might mostly equate buyers to the consumers, the people who buy items and then use it for their personal needs and wants. Although there could be also some buyers which are actually producers and buying. They might buy just intermediate products or inputs for production. That's also possible. The overall principle for the buyers is accepted as price of a good increases, the buyers demand less of that good. In extreme sense, this is logical because in that they don't have enough money and they need to buy less, especially if the money they spend for that good becomes a significant portion of their budget. In reality, of course, in some cases it might be possible that if I need to buy, if I need to use bus to travel to my workplace, in that case, I mean, just because the price of bus is higher, I might not be able to cut that spending, and I might still able to put more budget for the bus travel. Although, even though in general it might be argued, even though not all people decrease their bus consumption, at least no one will increase when price will increase, since this won't create any incentive to do that according to this, at least in general sense. And in general, at least some people might cut bus, bus, uh, well, their demand for bus ride, for example. Some people who might be able to do that might stay home, work at home, or some people who are riding bus for leisure might cut the spending. So in general, this negative relation is expected. I mean, and in only the degree, the quantity of bus rides demanded to the price might be small or large. In some cases, it might be possible that when you decrease price a little bit, the demand for bus rides might go down drastically. In some cases, it might just drop a little bit. Although In the literature, it is two exceptions are usually at individual level are mentioned against this rule. One is the case when a good is a necessity, and in some cases, for example, take a bus ride. People might be riding bus, but when they have some money left, they might travel, for example, in the weekends, maybe with taxis, just to be more comfortable. But when the bus rides prices increases, then they might cut from this luxury good, and they might even ride with the bus in the weekends because now they won't have enough money after the weeks. After paying the weeks bus rides to for riding with taxi, going with taxi to, let's say, to the places they want to go on the weekend. So something like, for example, the basic example is there was a potato famine in Ireland, and well, let's continue. Well, there was a famine in Ireland, as I said, and basically at that time people were their diet consists of mostly of potatoes, and when potatoes become more expensive, they cut spending of eating other items like meat and buy even more potatoes, because they don't eat meat, they need to have more potatoes to eat. So previously they were spending part of their money for some luxury food items. Now they cut from luxury food items and they buy even more potatoes to cover those meals, even though it's the potatoes prices that has increased. That's considered as one case. The second case is luxury goods. I mean, some people might buy certain goods because they are expensive, and when their prices drop, in that case, they might not be luxury items for them anymore, and they might cut spending. But both of these cases are considered as extreme cases, and in real life, almost there is no way case where you can observe a price increase creates an increase in demand, or a price decrease creates a decrease in demand. Okay, let's go down. Demand in the goods markets. Well, this is a typical case. It can be expressed. It is basically, because we are talking on a model of demand, which will be combined with model of supply, and we will have a model of demand and supply. We define demand not as a quantity, but as a relation. And since we are trying to look how market mechanism works, and there the price was the main element, main thing that was bringing quantity, demand, and supply to the same level, the demand is a relation that give us quantity demanded for each price level. So demand is defined for each price level, basically. So at the price, for example, $2, let's say, according to this table might be, for example, this slide is a demand, basically, relation, and for example, according to this table, at $2, 20 tons of coffee is demanded. At $1, 60 tons of coffee demanded. As you expect, as the price goes down, the quantity demanded goes up, and the whole table is our demand, because when we are talking on demand, we are meaning demand relation. The exact quantity that is demanded at a certain price level is called quantity demanded. What does it mean? That means when price increases, demand doesn't fall, because demand is already a relation defined for each price level. So demand only fall when something happens that decreases quantity demanded at each price level. So similarly, demand will increase when something happens that will increase the demand at each price level, quantity demanded at each price level, basically. So demand can be expressed as curve, as you see for each price level. For example, for 2 we find 20, for 1 we find 60. This curve also shows us the quantity demanded at each price level. So this is quantity. So when price of a good increases, quantity demanded decreases. In that case, we are moving along the demand curve. This was our demand, and when price decreases, we are moving along this curve. We are not going to a different curve. So when will demand fall in that case? Demand or rise? Demand will rise when we have a shift of this curve. Look, for example, compared with D1, D2, in case of D2, we have a higher demand. How do we know it is higher? We know for any price level, for example, for this price level, we have a higher quantity demanded. So demand increases when our demand curve shifts to the right. Because at each price level, right means more quantity demanded. Okay. Well, for example, that's an example. If quantity copy demanded at each price level increases by 15 units, then the demand increases or shifts. So what are the factors that might cause a shift in demand? Change in tastes, needs, and wants. Well, the obvious example was when it rains in Istanbul or in New York City. Suddenly there is an increase in demand for umbrellas, and you can see a high level of a significant number of umbrella sellers right in the streets that are responding to this increase in demand. So when the conditions change or tastes change, that might make people need or want more of a good. That's the case of changing needs and wants, changing tastes, which will increase or decrease the demand. Of course, the corona crisis and increases in the demand of masks is a case of this. I mean, not change that case, not the taste, but basically the needs has changed in this case. The second case is change in income level. Usually, when income increases, it is expected, people are expected to demand more of each of the goods. Because they have a higher income, so they can buy at this same amount, maybe more of the goods. And I mean, when they have more of the goods, we assume they will enjoy more of it. I mean, if you have 2 cups of coffee, that might be better for you. I mean, you enjoy it more than 1 cup of coffee. I mean, it can be taken at different time periods of the day, of course. So for most of the goods, this is the assumption. I mean, people enjoy it when they consume them more, so they buy more of it when they have a higher income. But some of the goods can be replaced by goods with higher quality when there is a better income. For example, again, the bus ride. When people have more income, they might switch to buying a car or riding a taxi when they have more income. Which means having more income might actually decrease the quantity of bus rides demanded. So those goods are called inferior goods. So if you have an inferior good, income increase will decrease its demand. Income decrease will increase its demand. So other goods, I mean the goods which increase, which experience an increase in demand when the income of people increase, those goods are called normal goods. So we are only left with 2 possibilities, 2 other factors that are commonly mentioned which increase or decrease the demand. That's change in price of substitutes and change in price of complement, but we are very close to the 15 minutes mark, so let's stop here.